Well, so among the biggest things that came out of that manifesto launch was industrialization and free secondary education, as well as job creation. Let's take a look at that 10-point manifesto launched by the Jubilee Party that is expected to propel them for a re-election for the next 5 years. Some of the things were replicated from what we saw in 2013 and are expected to feature, or will be featuring tremendously, in this next 5 years manifesto. So on health, this is some of the promises made by the Jubilee government, that they will ensure the country achieves free quality primary health care, and they will be expanding the government-sponsored NHIF cover to Kenyans who are above the age of 70 years. Those are the promises as far as the health sector is concerned. They've also promised to establish a specialized cancer hospital in Kenya. Well, apart from health, let's go to education, where the Jubilee government, or the Jubilee Party, has promised to provide free education in public primary and secondary schools. We know that the primary school free education program is already ongoing, but both parties, NASA and Jubilee, have promised the free secondary education. They've also promised to establish formal linkages between the private sector, academia, and the government. And this would be a launch of a government-sponsored apprenticeship program, or internship, if you like. They will establish centers of excellence to tap into the youth talent pool. These are the promises under the education docket if they will be re-elected on August the 8th. Just about 42 days from now, and that is the education docket. Let's take a look at another docket, housing. They have promised to facilitate mass housing production of 500,000 low-cost homes. One of the promises there on housing in the country. If re-elected, they will also be establishing a national social housing development fund, as well as maintain momentum in upgrading slums. And when you talk about slums, this is majorly in urban centers across the country, Nairobi featuring prominently. So on water, they will complete a 57 large-scale dam construction program. This is one of the promises made yesterday night by the Jubilee Party. If they get to be re-elected, they will ensure piped water in every household in Nairobi by 2020. The availability of clean water has been an issue for even the past governments, and research shows that almost half of Kenyans cannot still get access to clean water. And finally, on water, they will operationalize the Water Sector Trust Fund. These are the promises under the water docket. Now, on women empowerment, they will fully implement the 2/3 gender rule, as well as raise the profile of women in management and leadership. If you can remember, the implementation of the 2/3 gender rule, or even just the passing of it from Parliament, both houses, has been an uphill task for the current government and the 11th House, or the 11th August House. So this is expected to slip over to the next 5 years, if at all they will be re-elected. And those are some of the promises that were made yesterday night by the Jubilee Party. And of course, they will also extend the Linda Mama programs to 1 year. Those are some of the promises that were made yesterday night by the Jubilee Party. Let's now have that conversation with Kevin Osido, who is from the devolution. The County Governance Watch. Thank you very much. Every time I see you, I think devolution. But Kevin, always a pleasure to have you on Worldview here.
Thank you.
Your thoughts on the manifesto generally, the launch of the manifesto?
Not so bad in my view. And sometimes I ask myself, why do it take so long to implement certain things? I decided to carry the Vision 2030 document today.
Yeah.
And if you look at this document, it is a replica of what the Jubilee government launched yesterday. In fact, it is reading Transforming Kenya: Pathway to Devolution, Socio-Economic Development, Equity, and National Unity. And those are the 3 pillars of what the Jubilee government formed yesterday. This document is about 10 years old now. launched in 2008 by His Excellency the then President, Mwai Kibaki. And a lot of what this government has actually put in place is captured in this document. And many of the wordings actually are more or less the same.
Yeah.
A wealthy nation is a healthy nation. It's actually written there. And if you looked at also the NAC manifesto, the MAC manifesto of 2002, much more of lots of borrowing. But I think for me, my interest, as you rightfully said, is devolution, which did not come out very clearly because they kept saying, and I've read the document in soft copy, they kept saying that they will endeavor to work with county governments. And I think in their first term in office, they have not indicated that bit of a relationship that they want to continue to build with county governments, because we've seen lots of wars and fights that have been going on between this government and many of the county governments, especially the Council of Governors.
So when it comes to devolution, there was a bit of ambiguity on what really would be done if at all they will be re-elected.
Precisely, because again, many of what even the CSS spoke about, a number of them, almost 75% of what they were showcasing as their achievements are actually devolved functions as per the Schedule 4 of the Constitution of Kenya, 2010. Yeah, so we see a lot of gaps insofar as the achievements, implementation, and then how they seek to move on with their projections. Yeah.
Some of the things that were captured in this manifesto that should propel them to a re-election in the next 5 years was seen in the 2013 manifesto.
Yes.
Things like food security, things like education programs. Of course, they've added on top of it things like internship programs as well as industrialization. But really, should we be hearing the same thing when they had 5 years to implement what they had said in 2013?
That's precisely where the problem is. In fact, in my view, I think the Jubilee coalition will have to do a lot of work to convince Kenyans, because from a governance and leadership perspective, they did a very good job insofar as showcasing what they have been able to do through PR, because that to me was much more of a private sector public relations event. It moved beyond being an incumbent government's more or less function. And why I'm saying this is because you could even the MCs kept saying, watu wanauliza mambo ya unga, watu wanataka kujua mambo za stadium, because they didn't link what they promised in 2013 and what they've been able to do and what they want to do. So there is really a big gap, and I think they really have to do a lot of work insofar as convincing Kenyans that yes, you gave us an opportunity to deliver. And part of the gaps which I also noticed was Kenyans are very good people. Just tell us that we were unable to do this because of ABC.
But let's be honest.
Yes, let's just be honest with ourselves and say the truth as it is, which I don't think that the government in office was able to do that. So
well,
that
the argument from even the members of the Jubilee Party has been that you cannot implement everything you have promised. We have tried and done things on, say, infrastructure, the health sector, as well as bits of the education sector. You remember the laptops projects. So giving us a re-election would mean that you're giving us time to finish all the promises we've made now from 2013 and 2017 as well.
And that time is not there because you have a very vibrant opposition that is also campaigning every day and night, doing a lot of traversing of the country and making lots of inroads. So I think that for this government, and people are interested in service delivery, and those are very simple things. It's about health, it's about education, it's about water, which is safe and sufficient, which we've not been able to see. It's about infrastructure. We have seen bridges collapsing even before they are launched. I mean, after a few days of their launch. And those are things which really mean a lot to the citizens, because without a very good bridge, you cannot be able to cross over to go and fetch water. You cannot be able to cross over to go to school. You cannot be able to cross over to go to the market to get food. You cannot be able to go to health facilities because you really cannot swim every day. Expectant mothers, yes, we saw a lot of good work. We've seen a lot of good work that this government has been able to do about maternal health care. But health is not just about maternal health care. I was so surprised that the CSD didn't even make mention of the nurses' strike. And these are things which the citizens...
ongoing
exactly. It is ongoing as you're launching your manifesto, and you can't talk about it, and yet you keep having negotiations every day. It is really harmful to devolve governance in this country. And I think that, as we rightfully agreed, you and I, is that we need to be honest with ourselves. And this government, in their launch of the manifesto, they failed to be honest. And I think that Kenyans really do not care about the number of people that you want to mobilize. People care about, how do I benefit from the services?
Yeah.
How do I benefit? Can I go to the health facility and I get a doctor who will attend to me? Will I go to the pharmacy and I get drugs? Will I go to school and I get teachers? Will I go to school and I get good education that is able also to talk about youth employment? And we have every year more than 800,000 young people graduating for our institutions of higher learning. Yeah. You are still promising us 1.3 million jobs. And if you again look at this document, the ICTCS talked about special zones and business process outsourcing. It is clearly indicated in this document. And in my view, I kept saying, I wish they just came out and implemented the Vision 2030 document. Each county has what is called the County Integrated Development Plan that therefore brings out the plans of the county. We didn't see that linkage between this manifesto and what they intend to do, because counties also have broad opportunities for the youth, and there is no government that can be able to say that this section of the youth in your county are national government youth, and this section of the county are opposition youth, and this section of the county are county government youth. You know, so I think that merging these existing documents and policies within our country was a big gap that I think the drafters of the current Jubilee coalition manifesto really missed. And that was a big gap for them to be able to win back the hearts and minds and souls of Kenyans.
All right, so opposition NASA is expected to launch theirs today. What would you expect to come out of their manifesto unveiling today?
I hope that they are not going to brandish the Jubilee coalition, because we've seen what Jubilee has done, and I think that now NASA has much more of an upper hand insofar as not only filling the gaps that have been clearly brought out by last night's launch, but also showcasing, yes, you've been in opposition, you've been campaigning from day one of when the president was sworn into office. But now you have an opportunity to showcase what you want to do. So I see issues to do with corruption as top on their agenda. I see issues to do with insecurity, which again was not very clearly brought out last night. Yet Kenyans really are concerned about security. We have seen this government bringing out reports to indicate that now we have more than 400,000 police officers out there. Yet we don't feel it as Kenyans. Yeah? So I expect that NASA is going to share with Kenyans that we want to enhance security. I expect this debate that has been ongoing about free education, both primary and secondary, but that is what we are saying. So I want to believe that NASA will be able to be very different from Jubilee to then move to the next level of how do we want to do it. Yes, we are saying it, but how then do we want to do it? And something much more exciting that NASA has also been doing is about these the county plans. In the Kisumu Devolution Conference, which I think was in 2014, His Excellency the President launched what was then called the Lake Basin Development Integrated Development Plan. And NASA has been very fast to pick this kind of agenda, because that is actually what is going to spur prosperity and growth in our country, because counties are very different. They're unique in their own ways, and there are certain specialities that only exist in particular counties. So I expect that NASA, the way they've been running around the counties and launching regional blocks, plans for different blocks, that is going to be something else which I think and believe will be able to entice Kenyans to be able to support them. So it's
if they get it right.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Yep.
Thank you, Kevin. Always a pleasure having you here on Worldview. Kevin Osido from the County Governance Watch. Remember, NASA is set to launch its manifesto today in the evening, so we will be taking a look at that as we compare these two manifestos from what Jubilee launched yesterday night and what NASA will be launching today in the evening, even as we remain with 41 days to the general election on 8th of August.